Hey guys, welcome back. This is part two of the unveiling of my overwintering cactus bed. So I've got mixed results. I certainly, it's kind of a learning experience. I know what to do and what not to do. I've got mixed results here. So from the previous video, what I did was I covered this whole cactus garden with a transparent tarp, which was A+. That worked out wonderful. But what I also did was some of the larger items I covered with individual transparent buckets, which was absolutely the wrong thing to do for most stuff, especially for the stuff that's really moisture touchy in the winter. Stuff like this is an Oklahoma pancake prickly pear. Worked out great, but it's from Oklahoma and it can take more moisture. So I'll go around and show you what made it, what didn't. That's a beaver tail cultivar. I think it's got a little bit of Santa Rita mix in it, Santa Rita, and that made it, for the most part, pretty good. But I'll show you an example of something that I covered with the bucket, which did not make it. So this is an agave perii, and that just turned to mush, basically. It's highly doubtful that will make it. So what happened when I took off the buckets, I noticed that there was a ton of condensation all through the bucket, and that probably persisted. As soon as it warmed up and there's a lot of sun, it created just a pocket of condensation, and that was probably constantly dripping on these plants. I'm really confident if I didn't put buckets over something like this agave, it would have made it through with flying colors. And I'll give you an exact example of this. So this is the agave perii that I covered with a bucket and unfortunately killed it. And I'll go over here and give you an example of an agave that I didn't cover only because it was too small. This is just a real small pup. That's an agave Havartiana and completely unscathed. I mean, look at that. It's in perfect condition, zero damage. And this is actually smaller than the perii agave. So it just goes to show, and they have the same tolerances basically. So it just goes to show that, you know, I kind of screwed things up by putting buckets over everything. This is a Yucca glauca. This guy could have tolerated as much water as possible. There's certain things, like this is a Joshua tree yucca. That one may come back, but I also had another one over here which absolutely didn't. And that one, as you can see, I mean, that's try to get my hand in there, that's toast. So again, it was from the bucket. There are a lot of things. This is a borderline hardy prickly pear, which is absolutely toast. That's the Opuntia Santa Rita, I believe, from California. Beautiful blue one that turns purple in cold weather. Unfortunately didn't make it. Got all kinds of different prickly pears which are completely fine. These guys are really cool. These are beehive cactus, so I'm going to get more of these. Again, I didn't put a bucket over them, so they made it out just fine. Little beaver tails, didn't put a bucket over them, made it just fine. I was surprised by this. This is Yucca rostrata, put a bucket over it. Might come back. I'm growing a ton of these spring. I'll have a lot for sale, by the way. So no big deal if it doesn't make it, I'll just replace it. These guys are the Texas red yucca, made it through no problem. I'll just cut a little bit of that off, but these guys are great. So I put a bucket over them, but they're from Texas, so they can probably tolerate a little bit more moisture. They're, what are they called? Hesperola parviflora, I believe. Great plant, no problem. This prickly pear is a little more sensitive to moisture, so that may or may not come back. That's another cultivar of Santa Rita. This is an Engelmanni Opuntia. Again, covered it, moisture damage. Another agave that's not as bad as the one that got really turned to mush, but again, probably won't make it. That's a perii as well, just a different cultivar. Bucket over it. Again, I'm very confident if I didn't put a bucket over it, it would have made it fine. Oddly enough, I got little choyas here that turned out just fine, and I had a bucket over it, so go figure, I don't get that one. Here's a great example of a really extremely moisture sensitive prickly pear, and this is beaver tail. This seed source is from California in the desert, so this is very sensitive, this particular beaver tail, to winter moisture. As you can see, it's absolutely fine, and that's because I didn't put a bucket over it. So there you go. This guy, Opuntia Winter's Croom, it's an aria, fine, and things like Crystal Tide, Polycantha, that's an Opuntia Polycantha, I believe I pronounced that properly, just fine. That should be fine. So again, I think for the most part successful. So next year I will definitely put a transparent tarp over it to protect it from winter moisture, but I won't put individual buckets over anything, except for the stuff that can handle it, because it produces too much humidity. And create a little tropical humidity zone for some of these plants that really didn't appreciate that. So live and learn, and pretty soon I'm going to add a lot more of this, of course, and I'll make some videos on very specific plants in this cactus garden. So for overall success, I think, and cool thing is I'll add to it. So thanks for watching. Take care, guys.